Hello again, dear students. Welcome to our science class. I hope you are as ready as I am to start presenting your task. For today's learning competency and code, differentiate transverse from longitudinal waves and mechanical from electromagnetic waves. Do you know that waves are part of our daily lives? They may appear in many forms and shapes. The sound that you hear, the colors that you see around, the light that keeps you warm, and the food that we eat are some of the reasons why waves are important. Obvious example are water waves. Then sound waves are how you are hearing me. Visible light is actually an electromagnetic wave, and this is how you see things around you. Radio waves are also electromagnetic wave and how your electric device is receiving this video. Seismic waves are waves of energy which travel through the earth. Let's start studying about waves by doing this. We know that waving our hand is a common gesture we do to catch someone's attention or to convey farewell. Now let's try to describe your personal hand wave. Do you make a side-to-side motion with the palm of your hand? Do you do an up and down motion with your hand? Probably yes. So, moving your palm side to side and up and down, you do a repetitive motion. To tell you, a repetitive motion is called vibration. A vibration causes wave motion. When you observe a wave, the source is always a vibration. Let's define what is really a wave. Let me point out that waves, according to this slide, is a disturbance that carries energy, and it can travel with or without what is called a medium. So, ano nga ba itong tinatawag na medium when we are studying waves? A medium is a matter through which the wave travels. So, if this medium is matter, therefore a medium could be a solid, a liquid, or gas. Now let's try to identify the medium in the following scenario, and take note that the following slides will point out that there's an energy transmitted when waves are created. A stone, for example, is thrown into a pond with a boat on it, creating ripples on the surface of the water. Here, we identify the water as the medium, because without the water, surface wave cannot be created. And take note that the boat were moved, so there's energy. So again, the medium is water, which is a liquid medium. And how's energy transmitted? From the stone to the water, making the boat move up and down a few inches. Second, water waves on a beach. What do you think is the medium we're talking about here? If you think it's water again, you are correct. Without the water, waves cannot propagate. And how is energy transmitted? It says from wind to water. So again, please notice that there should be a source of energy to create a wave. And most common waves we see in ocean are wind-driven waves. And what do you think about sound waves? Here, the air, which is a gas, is the medium used. Sound waves could not travel if there were no air molecules. Though as we go on, we will know that sound can also travel in solid and liquid. Here, a wave traveling on a string would not exist without the string, which is a solid medium. Waves can be classified according to the direction of propagation. First, we have here transverse waves, wherein the vibrations of particles as the wave passes are at a right angle or perpendicular to the direction of the wave. For example, you are holding a spring at one end and moving it with your hand up and down. The waves formed are perpendicular to the direction of the wave motion. As you can see, a right angle is formed simply because as the wave moves forward, because of energy transport, the particles of the medium naman is moving up or down. Still talking about types of waves according to the direction of propagation, next we have longitudinal wave, wherein the vibrations are along the direction of the wave, moving back and forth in the same direction where the wave travels. This can help you further understand about transverse and longitudinal waves. Please read with understanding. In Tagalog, sa transverse wave, kung ang wave ay pa-forward, ang galaw ng particles ng medium ay pataas-baba. Sa longitudinal waves naman, ang particles ng medium ay gumagalaw parehas sa direction ng wave. Finally, here's your first activity. Are you ready? It's time for you to get a sheet of paper and don't forget to write your name and section. Then, LC1 Activity A. Read and follow the directions in the table below. Identify and place a check what wave is propagated using each material given. Like number 1, vibrating rope up and down. So, using a rope and vibrating this up and down, ano yun daw yung waves na makikreate? Is it transverse or longitudinal? You have to put a check on your choice. You can do these setups to check what kind of wave will be propagated. Do this setup, then make a wave by continuously vibrating the end of the rope with quick up and down movements of your hand. Then finally, you have to draw the waveform or shape of the wave. For part B of Activity 1, playing coil spring or slinky by moving it from left to right. Do the same setup, then make a wave by continuously vibrating the end of the coil spring by doing a back and forth motion parallel to the length of the spring. Then draw the waveform or shape of the wave. After doing Activity 1, let's move on to the parts of the wave. First, we'll discuss the parts of transverse waves. The transverse wave has the highest point, which is the crest, while the lowest point is known as the trough. The distance between a crest to another crest or trough to another trough is known as the wavelength. Again, we can measure the wavelength of the wave by considering the crest to crest or trough to trough distance. alin man dun sa dalawa ang tingnan mo, you'll get the same measurement for wavelength. Amplitude. Amplitude is said to be the height of the wave. In Tagalog, yung iniangat ng medium from its normal position. To tell you, amplitude is one way of knowing about the energy carried by the wave. The higher the amplitude, what do you think about the energy? And the lower the amplitude, the greater or lesser the energy. What do you think? Just a bit more about amplitude. We can measure it by considering the height from the normal position of the medium up to the crest. Or another way is by considering the normal position and the depth of the trough. Let's proceed to the part of longitudinal wave. First, we have the compression. It's the region where the particles are compressed. Rarefaction, the area at which the particles move apart. And take note that the size of compression indicates how much energy the wave has. This means that a wave with small compression has a small energy. Another thing, you can measure the wavelength of a longitudinal wave by considering the distance of one compression to another compression, or the other way is by considering the distance from one rarefaction to another rarefaction. Let's now summarize the concepts we had about transverse and longitudinal waves. Please read with understanding.
First thing we need to look at are the differences between transverse and longitudinal waves. In transverse waves, the oscillations are perpendicular to the direction of energy transfer, or the direction in which the wave is moving. Which is why on our drawing, the vibrations are going up and down, whilst the overall wave is travelling from left to right. Most waves we can think of are transverse, including all electromagnetic waves, like light and radio waves, ripples and waves in water, and the waves of strings like on a guitar. Longitudinal waves, on the other hand, have oscillations that are parallel to the direction of energy transfer. This one's a bit trickier to get your head around, but basically it leads to some regions that are more spread out and other regions that are more compressed, because the wave's vibrating back and forth. In motion, it would look as if this area of compression is moving from the left to the right within the wave. Examples of longitudinal waves include sound waves and some types of shock waves, like seismic P waves.
Now let's go back On how we define wave earlier, we said that a wave is a traveling disturbance moving away from the source, carrying or transporting the energy with or without a medium. Please take note, with or without a medium. And with this, we can classify waves into two. Again, pertaining to the absence or presence of a medium, we can identify the wave as either electromagnetic or mechanical wave. Please read. So how can we generate mechanical waves? They can be generated by vibrating a medium. Again, kailangan ng medium. A medium is required because vibrating particles are needed for the wave to travel. Examples: ocean waves travel through water, which is a liquid medium. Sound waves travel through air, which is a gas. And wave can travel along a rope, which is a solid medium. Another example of mechanical wave: earthquake waves are caused by a vibration due to colliding tectonic plates. What do you think is the medium of propagation of earthquake waves? Sound waves, aside from being longitudinal waves because of the direction of propagation, we can also identify it as mechanical wave because they require a medium like solid, liquid, or gas.
Emily is holding one end of the slinky, while Dr. Zook is pulling its other end towards himself and then pushing it towards Emily. Watch closely, and you will notice that some of the coils crowd close together and then slowly move farther apart. This is because the vibrations are parallel to the direction of the wave. If the wave moves from right to left, then the particles also vibrate from right to left. This is a longitudinal wave. Sound waves are longitudinal waves. These waves travel at different speeds in different mediums. The medium could be a solid, liquid, or gas. Now let's see how this works. In a solid, the particles are very close together. Sound energy moves as one particle hits the other particle. With the particles being so close together, sound travels quickest through a solid. If we look at particles in a liquid, they appear to be slightly further apart when compared to solid. Thus, sound energy takes a little longer to travel through a liquid. Look at the particles of gas. They are spread out, and hence, sound waves travel most slowly through them. Now we know how sound travels in different media.
Sound cannot be heard in outer space. Outer space is a vacuum with no solids, liquids, or gases. Most of the sounds that we hear travel through air. And what about electromagnetic waves? These are the waves that can travel even without a medium. Ibig sabihin, hindi kailangan ng waves na ito ang medium because it can transfer energy through a vacuum or empty space. The energy carried by electromagnetic or EM waves is in a form of radiation. Energy from the sun reaches the earth through electromagnetic waves. The sun is the center of the solar system, and the earth is the third planet from the sun. So, kahit na sobrang layo ng sun sa earth, nakakarating pa din ang heat and light energy nito dahil sa electromagnetic waves. Sun is the main source of energy on earth, and without it, life on earth will not be possible. So for your activity B, using Venn diagrams, differentiate transverse from longitudinal waves and mechanical waves from electromagnetic waves by selecting the word or phrases that best describe each wave. So for letter A, ito ay tungkol sa differences ng transverse and longitudinal waves. So you have to choose from the box kung ano yung mga word or phrases na best describe transverse and longitudinal waves. Okay? For letter B, you still have to make a Venn diagram similar to this one, but this time would be about mechanical and electromagnetic waves. You have to choose from the box the phrases that best describes those waves. Activity C. Analyze the picture and answer yes if you agree with the statement given along with the picture, and no if you don't agree with the statement. Simple as that. And answer these guide questions. Important things to remember. Next learning competency, infer that waves carry energy. The electromagnetic spectrum. This electromagnetic spectrum shows range of radiation or EM waves. Let me tell you what they are. So they are radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, the X-rays, and gamma rays. From the TV station to our living room, that is because of radio waves. Heating food, in a second, microwaves can do that thing for us. Infrared radiation is about heat treatment for illnesses. To take pictures in the dark, they are even in our remote control. The human eye can only detect a small portion of this spectrum, and that is the visible light, or also known as visible spectrum, and within it lies the colors from violet to red. Ultraviolet can kill bacteria and viruses, but can somehow dangerous to living things. To see broken bones and hidden bombs, that is the work of X-rays, while gamma rays can kill cancer cells. Let's try to talk about the relationship of wavelength with the energy carried by the wave. Moving along the spectrum from long to short wavelengths, energy increases as the wavelength shortens. So, masasabi natin dito na yung wavelength is inversely proportional to the energy. The shorter the wavelength, the greater the energy. Among the electromagnetic spectrum, the one which has the greatest energy ay yung gamma rays because it has the shortest wavelength. So how do we measure the wavelength? From one crest to another crest or from one trough to another trough. As you can see, nasundan agad ng isa pang crest, yung isa pang crest, or yung isang trough at yung isa pang trough. Kasi nga, may mataas na dalang energy ang gamma rays. While the radio waves, it has the lowest energy because it has the longest wavelength. Hindi agad nasundan ng isang crest at isa pang crest yung wave. Now, let us test your understanding by answering Activity A of this learning competency. Write on your paper LC2 Activity A. Follow the directions. Fill out the crossword puzzle with the correct terms using the given clues. Write LC2 Activity C, directions, analyze the given situation, and answer the guide questions that follow. The third learning competency. Describe how organisms produce, transmit, and receive sound of various frequencies like infrasonic, audible, and ultrasonic sounds. It's time for you to read these important informations I have for you about sound. Write LC3 Activity A. Here's the directions. Unscramble the letters to get the correct answer that will complete the statement about sound. I hope you'll enjoy doing this activity. Good job, my dear students, but then let us try another one. Write LC3 Activity B. This time, the directions. Study the table below regarding the speed of sound in different materials. Tell whether the material is solid or liquid or gas in nature. Write your answer on a space provided. So you'll have to copy the table similar to that one, and of course you have to answer the guide questions. You are really doing great. Now let us proceed to the last part of the lesson about sound. Here's the additional thoughts to ponder.